I think that because of Mario's sheer prevalence in the video game industry and gaming culture since pretty much the dawn of time, it seems as though we haven't encountered a singular year of Mario that stands out per se. Instead, we find ourselves immersed in an ongoing and dynamic timeline of Mario. But the year is 2023, where Mario just got his own hugely successful major motion picture, made an epic return to his roots, and now stars in the remake to one of the most beloved RPGs of all time. Yeah, I feel like given all that, it's pretty safe to say that this is the year of Mario, alright. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back. It's me, Addy, again. And today, we're going to be reviewing Super Mario RPG, or to be more specific, developer Art Plaza's Switch remake of Nintendo and Square Enix's original game that came out for the SNES in 1996, titled Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. Huh, the 7 stars part is gone. I guess that's the one thing that they demade. So Super Mario RPG is a beautiful 3D isometric take on its original counterpart from the 90s, where most of the upgrades in this game feature smaller quality of life additions, as well as bigger reworks to its gameplay mechanics as opposed to brand spanking new content. Now admittedly, I haven't played the original Super Mario RPG, so I'm missing the context of what was added and changed in this remake through my own personal lens, but that hasn't stopped me from perusing the interweaves to do my research to find out what that stuff is. And the things that immediately stand out to a Mario RPG virgin like me are autosaves, difficulty settings, a funky remastered soundtrack, gorgeous cutscenes, and epic ultimate attacks during combat. So basically a nice mishmash of things that I could appreciate while playing the game, and that I'd argue were the specific aspects here that made this remake a remake, besides the HD visuals, of course, which are acceptable by 2023 standards. But more importantly, what Mario RPG did for me personally was that it allowed me to witness the precursor to one of my all-time favorite video games, that being Mario and Luigi. Oh god, the viewers have seen my past 2 review videos probably want me to shut the fuck up about this game already. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. It was really exciting and quite wholesome getting to experience the humble, or not so humble since this is a remake, beginnings of a lot of the gameplay elements that I thoroughly enjoyed, not only in Superstar Saga, but even Sea of Stars, which is the last game that I played and reviewed on this channel, where I mentioned that its developers took inspiration from Mario RPG, and that I was excited to see just how they did. And now I have, and I'm glad I did, because Mario RPG was a great time overall. So, let's talk about what this game's all about, what you can expect from it, and whether I'd recommend it to you or not. Super Mario RPG, like the title suggests, is an RPG spin on the Mario franchise, as well as the series' initial foray into that gameplay genre. And it faithfully preserves the core systems of its 1996 release, a time when JRPGs like the iconic Final Fantasies 1 through 6, also developed by Square, dominated the gaming scene. As a result, the gameplay of Mario RPG truly captures the essence of those classic Final Fantasy titles. You've got a larger-than-life villain threatening the world, your main protagonist has to acquire a series of magical artifacts to stop him, and on your journey you encounter allies who assist you during classic turn-based battles, where you gain money, XP, and dopamine when you hear that sweet victory music kick in. Oh sorry, wrong music. That's better. Of course, the only difference lies in this delightful Mario-themed reimagining of the classic formula. Mario is the protagonist in this instance, collecting 7 magical stars. Bowser is the villain, okay, maybe not. And as you progress, you'll encounter a host of familiar allies and locations from the franchise, as well as familiar foes and iconic abilities during the turn-based battles. Of course, you will also be encountering new characters and concepts specific to this game that you've never seen before, but still, this game is instantly recognizable as a Mario game through and through, because it's not just about the characters and themes, but it's also about the gameplay, which skillfully glues a bunch of trademark mechanics from the Mario franchise onto an RPG experience. For example, when you walk between each biome on the world map, you're confined to a pre-made path a la most other classic Mario titles, and when you traverse each level, you can jump around indefinitely in order to get coins from hitting blocks, which are surprisingly chests in this game, as opposed to the classic yellow blocks. Found that very interesting. And to get around obstacles as well as enemies, which I felt were really creatively implemented here. Like, one thing I really did enjoy about this game was that it retained the fun factor of level traversal from the platformer side of the Mario franchise. In those games, it's always a good time hopping across a bunch of platforms and enemies to get to where you want to go. And it's still a good time here, even though you should want to collide with enemies so you can engage them in combat and get tougher, like in any other turn-based combat game. But I just couldn't elude my Mario-addled brain, which is used to avoiding enemies, and it certainly didn't help that the enemies in this game moved in patterns that just begged me to avoid them here and gain a sense of accomplishment from that. Basically what I'm saying is, I loved how for once I had fun avoiding enemies in an RPG, which I can't say I've ever experienced before in any other video game. So what happens when you don't hop over an enemy and instead hop into an enemy, thereby entering combat? Besides the obvious, which is that you'll enter a turn-based combat scenario, the biggest appeal of Mario RPG's combat system is its interactivity, which is something I spoke about really enjoying when it comes to games like Sea of Stars and Mario and Luigi, please don't kill me, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, where you can time button presses perfectly after inputting an attack or ability command in order to amplify the damage or extend the duration of the ability on an enemy. This is actually what I was most excited to see going into Mario RPG, as this is my favorite gameplay aspect of turn-based combat games that feature it. And I have to say, it was implemented really well here, and the novelty of it never truly wore off. And that's because some abilities have you pressing a button to extend it, while others have you spamming a button, holding a button, and occasionally using your left stick. There's always something different going on, especially with the single time presses, which you'll have to relearn the timings of whenever you buy new weapons for your characters over the course of the game, and encounter new enemies who barrage you with these new attacks that you'll have to figure out the timings of in order to perfect block. Because yeah, that's the thing in this game too, you can time button presses to perfect block. And what was also really fun and unique here, which to my knowledge wasn't in the original game, was this thing called a gauge counter, where as you execute more perfect attacks and perfect blocks, it'll grow further, netting you certain bonuses during combat and allowing you to eventually use a really vibrant ultimate attack that is based on your specific composition. So for example, Mario, Peach, and Bowser will together use an ult specific to them, whereas Mario, Popcorn Man, yes, that is a Popcorn Man, don't argue with me, and Peach will have a different ult specific to that comp, which I thought was really cool. And just like Sea of Stars, which I played recently, you can swap any of your party members in and out on the fly, except for Mario, which was kind of a bummer, since there were many situations where it would have been ideal for me to be running someone in his place given the specific enemy or boss I was fighting. But at the same time, I get it. You can't have a Mario game without Mario taking up 100% of the stage time, but I can't deny it was still a thought though. Overall, the combat specifically in this game is what feels the most old school Final Fantasy-esque, and you can really see Square Enix's influence in this game shine through there, with how you've got each character fulfilling a certain archetype, like Mario being your knight, Bowser being your tank, Peach being your healer, and so on and so forth, as well as status effects, physical attacks, and magical attacks, which cost a stat called flower points or FP in this game, which interestingly are shared by the entire party as opposed to being an individual stat for each character, which is something that I really liked here. Of course, you can augment your party with certain consumables as well, which once again through the Mario aesthetic of this game can be obtained by jumping into chest blocks, or more traditionally purchased from various vendors across the world who sell you your run-of-the-mill RPG essentials like new weapons, accessories, and armor pieces. I liked all of it, and all these systems mesh together really well in the end. And once again, I think the marriage of Nintendo Mario and Square Enix Final Fantasy was quite lovely here. And aside of the combat and level traversal, there's a good bit of minigame gaming, or mini gaming, that you can do, which was awesome to see. And that's because this game has plenty of them to offer, with each one being completely unique and tied to the specific part of the plot that you're on. For example, at one point during Mario's journey, he has to run up a hill to save Princess Peach, and there's a crazy fun minigame that you get to play out of that. And at a different point, Mario's got to go the Fast and Furious route by rescuing a member of a furry family.
I got family.
And once again, you get to play a pretty awesome minigame out of that. And what makes these minigames specifically and not unique narrative set pieces is the fact that you get to replay them over and over and over again with better scores and rewards, even if you're well past that point in the story. And I really, really liked that. This was once again something that really reminded me of Superstar Saga. And that's because that game too allowed you to replay a wealth of really fun minigames over and over, with some of them being almost one-to-one with what you get to play here in Mario RPG. And that hit me with a fun little dose of nostalgia. And one thing I've always noticed about the Mario games is that the minigames, at least for me, are never a walk in the park. And this game is no exception to that. I almost always had to replay the minigames here since I was never satisfied with my newbie initial attempts. But hey, you know what they say, the more attempts the merrier, right? There's so many! Ah! Okay, maybe not. Speaking of the difficulty, I'm sure you're curious whether the combat in this game is on the harder or easier side of things, especially due to the Final Fantasy comparisons. So for context, I played this on normal mode, which is the highest difficulty offered in the beginning, and I have to say that the game was pretty much exactly what it said on the tin. There were maybe one or two standout bosses, including the final one, that took 2 to 3 attempts to defeat, but other than those, I wouldn't say I encountered anyone I'd call difficult per se. What is worth noting though, is I don't think there was ever a point in this game where I turned my brain off and went into autopilot, and that's good since I was always thinking about what ability to use and which character to play each turn. Enemies dished a good bit of damage, I dished a good bit of damage, and I'd say the hardest aspect of this game was probably the perfect blocking, which rewards you tremendously if you can pull it off correctly, since you can mitigate all incoming damage pretty much, but depending on the fight, can punish you tremendously if you don't manage to pull it off at all. And let me tell you, from where I'm sitting, perfect blocking was no easy task in this game. You chose a wrong puppet to mess with. Or not. But you may have better luck. So ultimately, guys, I'd say Super Mario RPG is a great time. My only minor gripes of this game would probably be some of the stuff I'm aware was in the original that hasn't been changed here and that hasn't aged well in my opinion. With those two things in particular being some of the puzzles you've got to solve which are poorly designed with no proper indication of how they're meant to be approached, and some of the secret optional stuff on the side which I feel shouldn't be as obscure. I will say that I'm a little more understanding towards some of the side quests being slightly hidden, as that extends your playtime and has you figuring stuff out on your own, which different folks will react to differently. But when it comes to some of the invisible blocks that you can hit in order to find special coins and powerful items, I was a bit peeved since in most but not all levels, I felt like I just had to jump around randomly in hopes of getting lucky and hitting that secret block. I don't know, I just feel like that didn't rub me the right way. But other than these tiny things, I'll say that from where I'm sitting, Super Mario RPG is a game that gets a new verdict from me actually, and that one's a game that you should probably check out at some point. So why did this game get a brand spanking new rating from me, and that one in particular? Well, I thought about giving this game my redonkulously recommend rating, but I'm not sure that I'd recommend it that strongly since, just like with Sea of Stars, I could make the argument that you may not enjoy this game unless you're into RPGs, and more specifically older JRPGs from that 90s era. But at the same time, I'm not sure I'd give it my recommend with reservations rating, which entails all of that stuff, since I do feel the need to tell you guys to play it in spite of that. I'm somewhere in the middle of these two where I'd recommend you guys play this game as it serves, in my opinion, as a great entry point into JRPG titles, mainly due to it being a Mario game. And hey, not everyone, but everyone, loves Mario. Chances are you've played and enjoyed a Mario game before, despite whatever prevailing interests you have in games. It's that recognizability and influence that the character and franchise both have, where regardless of what genre or medium they're jumping onto next, you can bet that it's going to be something worth eyeballing. And Mario RPG is most definitely worth eyeballing. Oh shit, maybe that should be my new rating. Definitely worth eyeballing. We'll see going forward. And speaking of eyeballing, right now I'm eyeballing you. Yes, you. That's because I want to say a big thank you as always for checking out my review video today, you guys. If you did enjoy it, do be sure to leave a like below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Stuff like that greatly helps out and makes my day. Also, if you want to catch the full VODs of my Mario RPG playthrough, you can check out the playlist in the description below, which will link you to my second channel. Be sure to sub there if you're feeling extra supportive. And if you're feeling extra supportive, then be sure to drop by twitch.tv/irritableindian, where I stream these games live. Would love to meet you there and say hi. But until the next one, folks, stay happy, stay healthy, stay positive, and as always, keep on keeping on.